Good morning, students. 10th Standard Social Science Economics Unit 2 Globalization and Trade Lesson Continuation. Previous class we saw about the history of globalization, archaic globalization, proto-globalization and modern globalization. Then we saw about the trade and traders in South India, historical perspective. Early traders, European traders, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, the Danes and the French. Today's class we will see about the globalization in India. In India, the period after 1980-81 was marked by severe balance of payment difficulties, mainly due to hike in oil price and Gulf War in 1990-91 and hostilities in West Asia. That means unfriendliness or opposition with the West Asia. தமிழ்ல சொன்னபோது விரோதங்கள். So when the new government took over in June 1991, India had unprecedented balance of payment crisis. Unprecedented. It is unhappy or unknown. And with the downgrading of India's credit rating by some international agencies, there was heavy flight of capital out of India. Actually, in India had unprecedented balance of payment crisis. The நெருக்கடியான நிலைமை, a time of intense difficulty or danger. That time, India lost its credit worthiness in the international market. The government mortgaged 40 tons of gold to the Bank of England. Mortgaged means the property, it was mortgaged to bank. தமிழ்ல சொல்லும்போது அடமானம். So under these circumstances, the government for 1991-92 presented its budget in July 1991 with a series of policy changes which underlined globalization, liberalization and privatization. This has come to be called as the India's new economic policy. These policies were strengthened when India signed the Dungal Draft in 1994. Reforms made to adopt globalization. So new economic policy in India. Already we have studied about the new economic policy and what are the reforms made to adopt globalization. First, it is the abolition of industrial licensing except for a few industries. Reduction in the number of industries reserved for public sector. Fixation of a realistic exchange rate of rupee to exchange exports of Indian goods. Foreign private sector by making rupee convertible on trade on current account and by reducing import duties. Foreign exchanges regulations were suitably amended. The statutory liquidity ratio SLR was reduced to increase lending by RBI. Statutory liquidity ratio means in India the government term for the reserve requirement that commercial banks are required to maintain in the form of cash, gold reserves and bonds. Everything reduced to increase. That was reduced to increase lending by Reserve Bank of India. Let us see the short video on globalization and trade.
Globalization and trade. There was a time when most regions were economically self-sufficient. Locally produced foods, fuels and raw materials were generally processed for local consumption. Trade between different regions was quite limited. Today, the economies of most countries are so interconnected that they form part of a single interdependent global economy. Globalization is an elimination of barriers to trade, communication and cultural exchange. The theory behind globalization is that worldwide openness will promote the inherent wealth of all nations. Globalization is the free movement of people, goods and services across boundaries. This movement is managed in a unified and integrated manner. Further, it can be seen as a scheme to open the global economy as well as the associated growth in trade. Hence, when the countries that were previously shut to foreign investment and trade have now burned down barriers. According to most scholars and researchers, it is the modern age which led to the origin of globalization. In this age, widespread development took place in the field of infrastructures and connectivity. However, there are some scholars who point out that the origin of the history of globalization can be traced back to the ancient civilization. Scholars who advocate this theory say that the example of the earliest forms of globalization is the trade links between the Sumerian civilization and the Indus Valley civilization in the 3rd millennium BC. Global trade. Global trade is the result of uneven distribution of materials and resources across the world. No single country has everything it needs, and so countries need to trade with each other. Countries that rely on each other to trade goods and services are interdependent. Sometimes countries group together to help increase the volume of trade. The European Union is one example of a trading group. India and globalization. India had the distinction of being the world's largest economy in the beginning of the Christian era, as it accounted for about 32.9% share of the world GDP and about 17% of the world population. The goods produced in India had long been exported to far-off destinations across the world, and the concept of globalization is wholly new to India. The wake of globalization was first felt in the 1990s in India. The Indian government initiated the economic liberalization plan. Since then, India has gradually become one of the economic giants in the world.
Multinational Corporation, MNC. Multinational Corporation is a corporate organization which owns or controls production of goods or services in at least one country other than its home country. Evolution of MNC. Like the East India Company, which came to India as a trading company and then its net throughout the country to become politically dominant. These multinationals first start their activities in extractive industries or control raw materials in the host countries during 1920s and then slowly entered into the manufacturing and service sectors after 1950. Most of the MNCs at present belong to the 4 major exporting countries, that is USA, UK, France, Germany. However, the largest is American. So 11 out of the 15 largest multinationals are Americans. Growth of MNC in India. MNC company and growth of MNC in India. A common form of MNC participation in Indian industry is through entering into cooperation with Indian industrialists. Trends of liberalization in the 1980s gave a substantial spurt to foreign collaborations. So this would be clear from the fact that of the total 12,760 foreign collaboration agreements signed between 1948 to 1988 as a result of liberalized foreign investment policy FIP announced in July to August 1991, there has a further sprout of foreign collaborations and increased flow of foreign direct investments. Reasons for the growth of MNC: expansion of market territory and marketing superiorities and financial superiorities, technological superiorities and product innovations. So now I'll see the top 10 largest multinational companies in India in 2018. Sony Corporation, Nettle and HEW Left Packard, HP, Procter and Gamble, then Tata Group, City Group and Microsoft Corporation, Pepsi Company, IBM and the Coca-Cola Company. These are the 10 largest multinational companies in India 2018. Then Indian multinational companies. Company Hero Motorcorp, New Delhi. Automobile type of industry is the automobile. Countries of operating Colombia, Bangladesh, Africa. Then Bajaj, Pune headquarter, it is a automobile. United Arab Emirates, Bangladesh. TVS, Chennai automobile, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico and Peru. State Bank of India, headquarter Mumbai and type of industry banking. Countries of operating Australia, Bangladesh, Belgium. Then Bharati Airtel, headquarter New Delhi, type of industry communication. Then countries of operating South Asia and Africa. Advantages of MNC: producing the same quality of goods at lower cost and without transaction cost. MNC reduce prices and increase the purchasing power of consumers worldwide. MNC is able to take advantage of tax variation, then spurring job growth in the local economics. Disadvantages of MNC: they are a way for the corporations to develop a monopoly for certain products. They are also a detrimental effects on the environment. The introduction of MNC is to a host country's economy may also lead to the downfall of smaller local businesses. MNC breach ethical standards, accusing them of evading ethical laws and leveraging their business agenda with capital. Then Foreign Exchange Regulation Act 1974. This act referred directly to the operations of MNCs in India. Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Under FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, the emphasis on management rather than regulations.